You got Facebook, Instagram. We're telling your followers that you've started a live video. Welcome, friends. And we got our app, YouTube, those of you joining us there. It is Thursday. The weekend is coming for those of you that are like, oh, yes, please. So, Kelly, thanks for joining us. Oh, and thanks for sharing your story. Man, that was awesome. Marcus, thanks for being here. Carlos, Emily's on with us. Randy, Holly, Chuck. Thanks for being here, Chuck. I know we'll have some friends pop onto YouTube in a minute. It's great to spend a few minutes with you. And, you know, it's silly-ish, but seeing your names pop up and seeing you put in prayer requests and say hi to each other and interact is kind of fun. And so thanks. Hi, Shireen. Great to see you. We got Jamie. Oh man, there's a lot of familiar names in here. Paul's joining us. This is great. Last night we had a dream team gathering, which is one of my favorite events of the year. And every fall we get our dream team at CedarCreek together to just get excited about what's in front of us. And then every spring we gather our dream team together to celebrate. And it is such an awesome experience. And so those of you that were there for that, just, you were there. You were in the room. It was awesome. Today, we are continuing our daily emphasis on prayer. So if we've never met, you're wondering what all of this dream team talk is. My name is Ben. I'm a pastor in the Toledo area, Northwest Ohio. We have about 6 locations and a great online community. And the dream team is really our another word that you could use for that would be familiar to you as our volunteer team. We think they're more than just volunteers, but that's a great framework to understand. And it was just awesome. So anyway, today I want to talk about moving from fearful to fearless. Now that does not mean, and I need to say this right up front, that you're never going to have fear, right? Because we all have moments where we step into new endeavors. If you're going to go on an adventure, which I believe Christianity is an adventure to be explored, not just a list of rules to follow. There will be moments where you feel that internal, like butterfly-y kind of, So I think sometimes we get this idea that to be fearless means I'm never going to fear that or feel that again. When in reality, fearless is not being driven by fear. It's letting fear have less power instead of max power in your life. That's right. You can put that on a t-shirt. Less power. Let fear have less power rather than max power in your life. And one of the features of the first century church that is remarkable, and I don't know if you've ever actually thought about this, I would encourage you to read through the book of Acts and to put yourself in some of those stories, right? One of the features is that they were fearless. That didn't mean that they didn't have moments of fear. It just meant if you look at their story, the first century Christians were gutsy. Peter and John were sitting before the most powerful leaders. They had just watched these powerful leaders absolutely annihilate the body of Christ through the crucifixion. And for those of you who've never really watched like the Passion of the Christ, a crucifixion would make your stomach turn. It would be so revolting to be there, to watch it. That it's almost like you couldn't stand it. It would be so vile, you would ban it, right? From television or from social media, you would flag it. They're standing before this group, and the group is saying, don't ever talk about Christ. And their response is, kill us if you need to. We can't stop talking about what we've seen and heard. I mean, that's gutsy. Whereas, like just a month or a few weeks before, Peter was denying Christ. Like he was denying that he even knew the guy. It's from fearful to fearlessly alive. If you look further in the book of Acts, a young leader in the church named Stephen is being executed by stoning. Like they're literally throwing rocks at him, and it's breaking his bones in his body. And he has a fearless countenance that was noted by the people that were there. Paul and Silas singing in prison, potentially facing their own execution. And then beyond the Bible, if you look back through the history of the church, you just see century after century Christians who were boiled alive, drowned, put in icy water, and their faith carried them through, right? I mean, even in our era, the Soviet Union when it was in power, killed more Christians than Jews died in the Holocaust. Think about that. Like, I've been there to former Soviet countries and heard some of the stories of how they would treat people who would profess their faith in Christ. In the recent history, the Rwanda genocide has killed thousands of Christians. In modern day China today, the church is underground because people are losing their life. In the Middle East, in Turkey, I got to visit Istanbul. I met a young man abandoned by his family because of his faith. And so I know there are times where it feels like we're being persecuted here, and there are certainly some challenges that we face, but it's laughable sometimes when we think about some of the hardships that we have to endure here. Think about what's happening in Afghanistan right now. As the Taliban sweeps through, there are gatherings of Christians throughout Afghanistan, and now they have to live fearlessly. And how do they do that? That's the question that I want to explore for a minute. One of the keys is you have an eternal perspective, not just a what's happening right here perspective. Like the mindset of the first century Christians was really, even if the worst happens, the best is yet to come. It's like a way to think about this is like if you've ever watched a rerun of a game or a movie for a second time, right? It's like they're watching the game, they're living the game, and they know the outcome. They know that they win in the end. So when it seems like they're down and out, when it seems like it's not going well for the main character, they're not all bent out of shape because they know in the end what's going to happen. And I think that helps us go from fearful to fearless to more alive, no matter what it is that we're facing. Like, do I want bad things to happen to me, to my family, and our country? No. But I know that the best is yet to come. So it allows me to enter into today, not bent all out of shape about what might happen, right? They also had a great understanding of the great commandment that their love of God is rooted in God's love of them. They constantly remember God's fearless love of them, who he was willing to send his son. Jesus was willing to lay down his life. And when they kept that front and center, it helped them move from fearful to fearless, right? I think that's so helpful. And so another way to think about it is what happens in here, our perspective in here shapes how we view the world out there. And so really fearful living is like, what is it that your heart is holding on to? And if it's focused on your control, your ability, your beginning and end, your strengths and weaknesses, there's good reason to be fearful. But when your inner world is focused on who God is and what he has already demonstrated, the love that he's already poured out, and the future that he has made available for those who place their faith in him. When you have that here, it changes how you react to the world out there. 1 John 4:18-19 says, such love has no fear because perfect love expels all fear. If we are afraid, it's for fear of punishment, and it shows that we have not experienced his perfect love. Like if we're afraid, it means there's something in here that's like, ugh, we haven't fully, or we're not remembering, we're not living from God's incredible grace that he's already poured out. We're afraid of judgment. We're afraid of something that we're not going to measure up on. And that means we've missed the good news of the gospel, right? So God's grace in here, the power of Christ in here enables us to step out fearless, not void of fear, but it's not full of fear, right? So the question that I would ask is, do you love God fearlessly? Maybe does it depend on who you're with? Like, do the people who know you in your everyday life at work or at school, do they know that you follow God? I'm not saying, like plaster it in cheesy Christian wear. I'm just saying, do they hear it come up in your conversation? Or do you hide it? Do you love others fearlessly? Do you love the people around you, even if they don't look, talk, sound, vote like you do? Or now, let me be clear. That does not mean you become a doormat for like toxic people in your life, or abusive people. This isn't just like, okay, let whatever happen. No, you got to have good boundaries, right? No boundaries is not loving others, but it's like, can you show up and see the value, right, in them? It does mean seeing people the way that God does. It means valuing them, seeing their potential, knowing that God put them here on purpose. That's so powerful. It means making love a motivator, not fear a motivator. Yes, you will still feel anxious. Fear is not the enemy. It can still be helpful. We get afraid for good reason. It's letting us know there's danger ahead, but we just don't want to be driven by it, right? And so it's not getting stuck in all of the what ifs and trying to control them all. So God has not given us a spirit of fear and timidity, as it says in 2 Timothy 1, but a spirit of power, not our power, his power in us, of love, not just our love, his love in and through us, of self-discipline, the ability to tell ourselves no, right? So this is so powerful. Let's make that our prayer today as we step into today, that God would help us love fearlessly instead of live fearfully. Will you pray that with me? Take that deep breath. Dear God, thank you for being a God of perfect love. Thank you for loving me first, before I accepted your gift of grace, before I knew you, while I was still living in sin. Teach me to love as you love, without fear, without condemnation. And help me to offer grace to those around me, just as you first offered grace to me. Powerful prayer. Take it with you today. And let's shine a little bit of God's gracious love, even in the places that feel so dark or difficult. Maybe God put you there on purpose to expose a broken and weary world to the incredible love and grace of God. It's a pretty cool assignment when you think about it. So don't step in fearfully today. Let's let fear have a little less control, and let's let love shine a little brighter. Thanks, y'all. Love spending a few minutes with you. And let's get after it today. We'll see you tomorrow.